Hello, I'm Rob and welcome to the next tutorial in Dmod creation. In this tutorial we're going to be storing a sprite number in a local variable and then changing the editor type for that sprite number. And what that is going to do, don't worry if that sounds confusing, because basically in short what that is going to do is make it so this bag does not come back. And then what we're going to be doing is also making it so this tree doesn't come back after we've gone back and talked to it and it's done its little, run around the screen and then vanish. We're going to make it so when we go out of the screen and come back in, it's not there. But we're going to be doing the tree in a different way because we don't want to kill it off forever. We only want to kill it off when our global variable equals a certain value. So we're going to be doing that one with our global variable and story. First, let's concentrate on the bag. So, if you've watched my previous tutorials, you already know how to store, or how to retrieve a value and store it in a variable. And basically the way you do that is you write the variable, and then you write equals, and then you write a command as you usually would, but instead of writing a value where you'd usually write a value, you write -1. What that does is it returns the value for that sprite and stores it in the variable, as we did for the tree here. We used the local variable and x equals spx1, and instead of a value -1, which instead is going to return the Dink's exposition, whatever value that may be, and then it's going to go ahead and store it in AND_x. So we know now that AND_x equals Dink's exposition. Even though we don't necessarily know what it is, we know that it's now AND_x is equal to that exposition of Dink. So we know, if you know how to do that, you know to use -1. Now the reason I recap on that is there are some commands out there and their sole purpose is to return a value and store it in a variable. So it doesn't actually have a value that you'd usually set. And in these certain commands you don't obviously need to use -1 because there is no reason for setting a value. So basically first let's declare that what I've just said will become clear in a second if it's confusing. First of all, let's declare a local variable because we need a local variable for this. So int, I'm going to call it nHold, because basically the reason I'm calling it that is I want it to hold the information. I want the game to hold the information, not to let this sprite come back. You can call the variable whatever you want. And since I know what the variable is used for straight away, you don't have to go ahead and put it on another line like this. If you know what you're using it for straight away, you can go ahead and just use it. So basically I'm declaring the variable in the touch procedure this time rather than in the main procedure, and I'm going to go ahead and use it straight away. And the reason for this is, when we did the tree, I didn't know whether I might need those variables in multiple parts of the script later on, but I know in this script that this is the only place I'm going to need this variable, because the only time I'm going to make this bag never come back is after Dink takes it, which happens here. So I'm declaring it here and I'm going to use it straight away. So what I want you to write is int nHold equals sp editor underscore num bracket n current sprite bracket semicolon. So this is an example of one of those commands. The sole purpose is to return a value and store it in a variable if you want. But usually that's what you do. Okay, so basically what this is doing, I'm going to explain this command right now, is it is going to return the editor sprite number of this sprite and store it in this variable. There is no need for a -1 like I said, because this sprite we don't set values. There's no, this is the extent of this command. That's and what I mean by an editor sprite number, if you don't know what that is, if you go into your editor, I'm going to move this bag over here so it's sort of not near any other sprites. Hold down the I key on your keyboard and you'll see these black boxes come up with some extra information in them. You'll see there's the text sprite with a number, and there's a different number for each sprite on the screen. This is the editor sprite number. Okay. I don't know why, but I've just lost what I've done, so I'm going to rewrite it. Okay, so basically what's happening is this is going to return the editor sprite number of this sprite and store it in this variable. So now this variable refers to that sprite number. And now what we're going to do is we're going to set an editor type for that sprite. So we know this variable refers to that sprite, basically. That's that sprite number. What I want you to do is type if and hold doesn't equal 0, sorry, space 0, and then put brackets there. Okay, this is an if statement, and basically what it's going to ask is if this is storing anything other than 0, then do this. And the reason we need this statement here is the only time basically that this will return 0 and store 0 in here, and then this will ring false basically, and then skip this, is if the sprite was not placed by the editor. Because if it was not placed by the editor, so if we didn't place it in here ourselves, then it's not going to have a sprite number, because sprites only have an editor sprite number when we place them down by the editor. And you may be asking, well hang on, how can there be a sprite there if we didn't place it? And basically the short answer is using create sprite. If you've used the command create sprite to create a sprite, it's not going to have an editor sprite number. Or yeah, basically if it was created, and when you get into in-depth demodding and stuff, you can create sprites and spawn scripts which also create sprites and attach scripts to sprite, and there could be sprites on the screen that don't have an editor number. And basically we just run this check to make sure that it is actually storing an editor number, and if it's not, don't even worry about it, because we know it's not going to come back anyway, because it wasn't placed by the editor. So you can't set an editor, what we're about to do is set an editor type now, and you can't set an editor type for a sprite that wasn't placed by the editor, so that's the reason we run this check. Okay, so now what I want you to do is write editor underscore type and hold 1 bracket semicolon. And basically what this does, if you go into your Dink folder, actually this will make it a lot more clearer for you. Open up your develop folder, and you should have a dinkc.chm file in there. If not, you can get this from the Dink network. It's called the dinkc reference. Rather than me memorizing all these and telling you what they are, I'm going to get them from in here. If you go to editor type, this is really useful, the dinkc reference. It has all the commands in it that you ever want to use. Editor type. Basically what editor type does, as it says just here, editor type sets the editor type value for the given editor sprite. and this value determines if the given sprite will be visible when the screen is next drawn according to the following table. So in more simplistic language, basically we're setting an editor type for that editor sprite number, and that editor sprite number is the editor sprite number of this sprite, since it's storing the editor sprite number of that sprite. So whatever number that may be, we're setting an editor type for it, and this lets the game know what to do with the sprite every time Dink enters the screen from there on. And you can refer to this table. I just told you where to get the DinkC reference from, so if you want to either pause the video, copy this table down, or just grab a copy of the DinkC reference, you can see here that down here on the left side, type 1 refers to kill sprite completely, and that is what we want. So editor type for the editor sprite number and hold, whatever that may be, we know and hold is storing it, so yeah, is 1. So basically kill whatever editor sprite this is completely, and it's the editor sprite that this is holding is this sprite. So I don't know whether I can be any more clearer. I'm probably actually sounding quite annoying at the moment. Basically, that's how you kill off the bag. That's all there is to it. Now when Dink enters the screen after it's collected it, it's not going to come back, because the story is changed to 3. We're storing this sprite's editor sprite number in and hold, making sure it was placed by the editor and not created by a script. And then we're setting the editor type for this sprite number to 1, which is kill off the sprite completely. Now if you're sick of my voice and hearing me babble about this, then that's good, because I'm about to test it out and you can listen to the game sound instead. Just to, not really test because I know it's going to work, but just to show you how it works and all that. Whoops, we need to actually do the whole story. So what I'm going to do is I'll skip up to the part where I'm collecting the poison bag for you. If we walk into the house here, we'll see it's there, and Dink says there's a bag of tree poison over there. If we collect it, that command's going to happen where it stores the editor number of that sprite and changes the editor type of that number to 1, which means kill it off completely. So it's going to kill that editor sprite off completely, and now it's no longer going to be there. So this is going to make that bag never come back. And what I mean by that is, with this command we did here with the if and story lower than 2, it killed it off just for that instance. This command here, that sprite's gone for good. It saves in save data. The player will load the game and come back, it'll be gone still. It kills that sprite off forever. Okay, so now we're going to make sure this tree doesn't come back after it explodes, but we're going to do this in a different way. The reason I wanted to do the bag first is I wanted to explain something. Let's say this tree might leave now, but let's say there's a quest up later where we want the tree to be back in that screen and for Dink to go and talk to it or something. In that case, we don't want to kill it off completely forever like we've done for the bag, because then we can't make it come back. So basically what we want to do is, we know after this sequence happens where Dink talks to the tree and the tree asks Dink to let it live and blah blah blah, it moves around and then it disappears with an explosion. We know the end story variable changes to 4, so let's simply add another if statement. If end story greater than or equal to 4, sp active and current sprite 0 kill this task. So basically, as soon as this sequence happens and the story changes to 4, if the story is 4 or greater, that tree is not coming back. And then you might be asking, well, what happens later on when the story variable progresses a little more and it equals about 8 and we want the tree to come back? Well, what we can do then is simply add another if statement here. This is just one way to do it. If end story lower than 8. And you can stack if statements like this so you can do multiple checks before something happens. So basically what this is going to do is it's going to ask, is the end story variable greater than or equal to 4? Yes, it is. Let's say the story variable equals 8 for now, just for demonstration purposes. And then it's going to say, is the end story variable lower than 8? No, it's not. It equals 8. So we'll skip this. So that's how we can do that. I'm going to get rid of that because we don't know whether... Sorry. We don't want that to happen now. We just want to make sure that once this happens, that tree's not there anymore. But we don't want to kill it off the same way we killed the bag, because we might want to use it later. So that is how to make sure that bag doesn't come back, how to make sure that tree doesn't come back. I'll see you in the next tutorial. See ya.